All right, we'll stay in Canberra. It's been a busy day and still be busy tonight. Joining me now, our political editor for 2026, kicking off the year, Andrew Clennell. Andrew, welcome. We'll start with the legislation. I want to get a broader take on the year ahead in a moment, but two Nats crossed the floor in the House, Colin Boyce, Lou O'Brien. We played a little bit of what they had to say there. I made a mention at the top of the show, it's subject to a guillotine in the Senate, so there will be a forced vote tonight. I assume it'll pass.
Yeah, it'll pass, but the difficulty for the opposition and Sussan Ley is, as things stand, and they could have changed in the last couple of hours, but my understanding is the Nationals are likely to oppose it, or at the very least abstain from a vote on it, and the Liberals are likely to vote for it. And I'm not talking about the gun control, the Greens are passing that. I'm talking about the other legislation around antisemitism and the like, hate speech, etc. So that's a terrible result for Sussan Ley, in my view. Shocking. And, you know, it gives opportunity to people who want to challenge her to say, well, I can work with the Nationals and she can't.
All right, let's go to the broader issue of how the year started yesterday with that Newspoll. You know, 50-50 to the two majors, so only half of the available vote. The other half of the available vote is splintering far and wide, on the left and obviously on the right. We'll get to One Nation specifically, but give me a call on the two majors as you see it now in early January.
Well, I can't see Sussan Ley surviving the year given those sort of numbers. And, you know, she's actually had a pretty good summer. She's taken it up to the government. She's put pressure on. But I think Labor's had some success in saying you're politicising it too much. I mean, that's, you know, you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, if you're Sussan Ley. And she's so hostage to what the party rooms think that she doesn't look like her own person. Like, you know, this example of her saying, get Parliament back, get Parliament back. Oh, it's back. Oh, you know, we can't pass the laws. So I think she's in a bit of strife. The government is severely weakened. So I do see sort of parallels between this situation and 2019. You had a massive victory by Albanese. You had a massive victory by Scott Morrison, a surprise victory. And then the bushfires came along and he had Cabargo and all the rest. And so they were riding on a high. The government was quite arrogant. In fact, so was Morrison. You know, you could say that about Albanese a bit as well, you know, that he thought he was invincible. But I think Albanese probably experienced enough to know that, you know, just when you think that happens, you get something like this. And he didn't stand up in the first couple of days. I commentated on that last year, I don't think well enough compared to Chris Minns. In the wake of this, it was almost like he was shocked. I have to say he looked a lot better today, but the Parliament's his comfort zone. But that was a critical time. Then he allowed that Royal Commission opening, that debate, which sort of encapsulated, look, you haven't performed strongly enough on this. So he finds himself weakened. You know, he's still very much in an election-winning position, particularly if the other side don't perform very well and they're not going so well. But, yeah, the danger, I guess, to Australian politics is this rise of One Nation, because we know in some positions they have some pretty extreme positions and, you know, both major parties need to lift their game or they're going to have seats taken by them, and that's the bottom line. And then you can even have a balance of power situation with One Nation. We're a long way from that now, but if the polls continue as they are, that's where you end up. And I think Barnaby Joyce sort of strengthens that sort of Pauline Hanson position. Let's see if they can, you know, keep getting on for 2 years. I reported today, Peter, that I think Colin Boyce and one or two others might also go from the Nationals to One Nation. So there you got David Littleproud's got massive headaches as well, really big headaches. So you could almost mount a case that the three leaders have got headaches, Albanese, Ley and Littleproud. Albanese, funnily enough, given where he was a month ago, probably has the least headaches of all of them. At least he's in front.
So I don't want to say or even suggest that there's rumblings about the Prime Minister's leadership in the same way that I think Sussan Ley will face a vote in the party room this year. But are people hoping, wishing, thinking that we might see the retirement this term of the Prime Minister in some way?
Well, there's always people wishing that, people who want the job, and there's probably 5 or 6 of them on the Labor side. Look, I don't anticipate it. I think, you know, the Bondi thing made it more possible, but I still don't think that that's his intention at the moment. He's still in front, well in front. the way I see it. And he had a dip around the time of the Voice and came back. But that really sort of shattered that election sort of arrogance around the place, hubris, if you like. And I just look at it like, if you think about the bushfires and Morrison, Peter, he was damaged by that, but he came back. And the initial COVID response was really good. And then he was flying high, Scott Morrison. But what happens is that this sort of narrative develops and then people sort of can forgive you if you perform after that. But then it can come back. And that's the danger for Albanese now, that if he faces another crisis or he faces a situation where Australians aren't happy with the way he deals with it, they remember how he reacted straight after Bondi. And, then they think, oh, well, he put up that Voice too and we didn't particularly like that. And it all sort of snowballs and suddenly you go from hero to zero. And we very much saw that with Scott Morrison. So, and Albanese saw that. So he must know that that's the peril for him now. Not that he's in peril at the moment, but that, the longer you stay in office, the more your capital goes. And some of his has gone.
And I'll watch with interest how much he does on the celebrity circuit. I think that's also been damaging for him. And you're right, he just needs another incident now, and all of this sort of aggregates against him. I don't know that we're going to see him at the tennis. I think he's going to be quite risk-averse, Andrew, about being in a public setting where he could be booed.
100%, 100%. And look, I tell you, I went to the SCG test, he didn't. And, he would always go to that. The only one he hasn't been to in years, I reckon, is just before the election. He was given advice, don't go to the cricket or the tennis. I'll tell you what, it'd kill him, though. It'd kill Anthony Albanese, because if there's a couple of things he loves doing, it's the SCG test and the Australian Open final. So let's look for the final if he goes, but I'd be betting he doesn't go. And, that's pretty smart, really, because, if you get booed, that gets remembered as well. Not to mention it's a pretty unpleasant experience for a person.
All right, we will watch with interest. Andrew, great to have you back. We've got 2 state elections, as I mentioned last night, the US midterms later in the year. It'll be a big year, as it always is. Politics is unpredictable. Andrew Clennell, thank you.